Being observant is not merely an interesting quality that enlivens our days. Clear and sound thinking often depends on subtleties that are revealed only by close observation. In other words, by attentive seeing and hearing. If there are gaps in our seeing and hearing, then the perception on which we based our judgments are less likely to be complete and accurate. In addition, the keener our observation, the less likely we will be to commit to stereotypes, oversimplification, and unwarranted assumptions. Being observant is not merely an interesting quality that enlivens our days. Clear and sound thinking often depends on subtleties that are revealed only by close observation. In other words, by attentive seeing and hearing. If there are gaps in our seeing and hearing, then the perceptions on which we based our judgments are less likely to be complete and accurate. In addition, the nearer our observation, the less likely we will be to commit to stereotypes, oversimplification, and unwarranted assumptions. Being observant is not merely an interesting quality that enlivens our days. Clear and sound things often depends on subtleties that are revealed only by close observation. In other words, by attentive seeing and hearing. If there are gaps in our seeing and hearing, then the perceptions on which we base our judgments are less likely to be complete and accurate. In addition, the nearer our observation, the less likely we will be to commit to stereotypes, oversimplifications, and unwarranted assumptions. Good detectives are observant. They know that one small, easily overlooked clue can mean the difference between a solved and an unsolved case. Similarly, good trial lawyers are still studious observers of people. The nervous glance of witness when a certain aspect of the case is mentioned can suggest the most productive line of questioning. Likewise, we can conduct our criteria thinking more effectively if we observe other people's behavior carefully. Good detectives are observant. They know that one small, easily overlooked clue can mean the difference between a solved and an unsolved case. Similarly, good trials lawyers are studious observers of people. The nervous glance of witness when a certain aspect of a case is mentioned can suggest the most productive lines of questioning. Likewise, we can conduct our criteria thinking more effectively if observed our people's behavior carefully. The way to be observant is to use all 5 of your senses to keep our mind from wandering aimlessly. All too often, people are unobservant because they are too absorbed in themselves. Their own thoughts and feelings. When they speak, they are so busy forming their words and enjoy the sounds of their own voice that they forget their listeners. Observant people, on the other hand, have learned how to get outside themselves, to be constantly in touch with what is happening around them. The way to be observant is to use all 5 your senses to keep your mind from wandering aimless. All too often, people are unobservant because they are too absorbed in themselves, their own thoughts and feelings when they speak. They are so busy forming their words and enjoying the sound of their own voice that they forget their listeners. Observant people, on the other hand, have learned how to get outside themselves to be constantly in touch with what is happening around them. A good way to start becoming more observant is to practice receiving things impressions more attentively. At the next meeting of an organization you belong to or other gathering, try to notice things you would normally miss. Objects in the room, the arrangement of the furniture, the possession of the people in relation to one another, the subtle reaction of people during the discussion. When you are reading a magazine or newspaper or watching TV, look for the significant things. Consider the connections among the ideas, even apparently unrelated ones. Observing people. What people say and the way they say it, and sometimes what they omit saying, can be valuable clues to their unspoken views and attitudes. Noticing these things can help us decide which areas are sensitive for people, which areas their understanding seems weak in, and what approaches would be most fruitful in communicating with them. Observing people, what people say and the way they say it, and sometimes what they omit to say. Saying can be valuable clues to their unspoken views and attitudes. Noticing these things can help us decide which areas are sensitive for people, which areas their understanding seems weak in, and what approaches would be most fruitful in communicating with them. Reflecting on your observation. Observation will sometimes by itself bring valuable insights, but you can increase the number and the quality of your insights by developing the habit of reflecting on your observations. The best way to do this is to set aside a special time every day, early in the morning perhaps or late in the evening, but not when you are exhausted. It needn't be long, 10 or 15 minutes may be enough, but be sure you are free to distraction. Review what you have seen and heard during the past 24 hours. Ask yourself what they mean, how they relate to other important matters, and how you can use them to improve yourself to spur achievement. Reflecting your observations. Observation will sometimes by itself bring value insights, but you can increase the number and the quality of your insights by developing the habit of reflecting on your observation. But you can increase the number and the quality of your insights by developing the habit of reflecting. The best way to do this is to set aside a special time every day, early in the morning perhaps, or late in the evening, but not when you are exhausted. It needn't be long. 10 or 15 minutes may be enough, but be sure you are free of distraction. Review what you have seen and heard during the past 24 hours. Ask yourself what they mean, how they related to other important matters, and how you can use them to improve yourself or to spur achievement. The term issue in the context of critical thinking means any matter about which people tend to disagree. In other words, it is almost synonymous with the word controversy. Any feeling of security this approach may generate is purely imaginary. Trying to do justice to a broad topic in a composition of 500 words, or for the matter in several thousand words, is as futile as trying to pour a gallon of water into a paint container. Just won't work, even in the case of a simple informative composition, and it has much less chance of working when you're analyzing issues which are at least two-sides and often multi-sides. This means that many, perhaps most of the people who will judge your analysis of an issue not only know its complexity but also have half a dozen reasons to disagree with you. A superficial once-over light treatment is sure to fail. Any feeling of security this approach may generate is purely imaginary. Trying to do justice to a broad topic in a composition of 5 words, or for the matter in several thousand words, it is futile as trying to pour a gallon of water into a pint container. It just won't work. Trying to do justice to a broad topic in a composition of 500 words, or for the matter in several thousand words, is as futile as trying to pour a gallon of water into a paint container. It just won't work, even in the case of a simple informative composition, and it has much less chance of working when you are analyzing issues which are at least two-sided and often multi-sided. This means that many, perhaps most of the people who will judge your analysis of an issue not only know its complexity, but also have half a dozen reasons to disagree with you. A superficial once-over light treatment is sure to fail. The only sensible solution to this dilemma is to limit the scope of your analysis. The only sensible solution to this dilemma is to limit the scope of your analysis. For example, if the issue have 5 or 10 important aspects, examine only 1 or 2. You will then have sufficient space to address complexity, make important distinction, and deal with subtleties. This is the meaning of less is more, aiming for depth rather than breadth. The only sensible solution to this dilemma is to limit the scope of your analysis. For example, if the issue has 5 or 10 important aspects, examine only 1 or 2. You will then have sufficient space to address complexity, make important distinctions, and deal with subtleties. This is the meaning of less is more, aiming for depth rather than breadth. How to limit an issue. 1. List as many aspects of the issue as you can. In the case of an important, highly controversial matter, your list may include more than a dozen aspects. To decide exactly which aspect you will address, seldom will you be able to do an adequate job of treating all aspects. The one or ones you choose should not only meet your interest but also fit the occasion and the purpose of your analysis and the amount of time and space you have available. Decide exactly which aspect you will address. Seldom will be able to do an adequate job of treating all aspects. Decide exactly which aspect you will address. Seldom will you be able to do an adequate job of treating all aspects. Seldom will you be able to do an adequate job of treating all aspects. The one or ones you choose should not only meet your interest, but also fit the occasion and the purpose of your analysis, and the amount of time and space you have available. Probe the aspect you are concerned with one or more clear, carefully focused questioning. Doing this helps keep the subsequent inquiry focused and prevents you from drifting from the issue. Write the question out, then if you move in a certain direction, you can quickly glance at the questions and decide whether that direction is likely to be productive. Probe the aspects you are concerned with in one or more clearly, careful, focused questioning. Doing this helps keep the subsequent inquiry focused. Probe the aspect you are concerned with in one or more clear, carefully focused question. Doing that helps keeps the subsequent inquiry focused and prevents you from drifting from the issue. Write the questions out, and then if your thoughts move in a certain direction, you can quickly glance at the question and decide whether the direction is likely to be productive. By limiting the scope of your treatment, you not only ensure a clear focus and increase the odds of staying within your competence, you also make the task of analysis more manageable. The fewer matters that are competing for your attention, the less danger of becoming distracted or confused, even on those rare occasions when you are able to address more than a single subissue. Careful identification of all of them will make your inquiry more orderly and purposefully. Finally, limiting your treatment will lessen the chance of your oversimplify complex matters. By limiting the scope of your treatment, not only ensure a clear focus and increase the odds of staying within your competency, you also make the task of analysis more manageable. The fewer matters that are competing for your attention, the less the danger of becoming distracted or confused. By limiting the scope of your treatment, not only ensure a clear focus and increase odds of staying within your competence. You also make the task of analysis more manageable. The fewer matters that once competing for your attention, the less the danger of becoming distracted or confused, even on those rare occasions when you are able to address more than a single subprocedures. Careful identification of all of them will make your inquiry more orderly and purposeful. Finally, limiting your treatment will lessen the chance of your oversimplifying complex matter. the term issue in the context of critical thinking means any matter about which people tend to disagree. In other words, it's almost synonymous with the word controversy. Any feeling of security has approached many generate is purely imaginary, trying to judge justice to a broad topic in a composition of 500 words, or for the matter in several thousand words, is as futile as trying to pour a gallon of water into a pint container. It just won't work, even in the case of a simple informative composition. And it has much less chance of working when you are analyzing issues which are at least two-sided and often multi-sided. This means that many, perhaps most of the people who will judge your analysis of an issue not only know its complexity but also have a dozen reasons to disagree with you. A superficial one's overlighted treatment is sure to fail. The only sensible solution to this dilemma is to limit the scope of your analysis. For example, if the issue has 5 or 10 important aspects, examine only 1 or 2. You will then have sufficient space to address complexity, make important distinction, and deal with subtleties. This is the meaning of less is more, aiming for depth rather than breadth. How to limit an issue. 1. List as many aspects of issue as you can. In the case of an important, highly controversial matter, your list may include more than a dozen aspects. To decide exactly which aspect you will address, seldom will you be able to do an adequate job of treating all aspects. The one or ones you choose should not only meet your interest but also fit the occasion and the purpose of your analysis, and the amount of time and the space you have available. 3. Probe the aspect you are concerned with in one or more clear, carefully focused questioning. Doing the helps keep the subsequent inquiry focused and prevents you from drifting from the issue. Write the questions out, then if your thoughts move in a certain direction, you can quickly glance at the question and decide whether that direction is likely to be productive. By limiting the scope of your treatment, you not only ensure a clear focus and increase the odds of staying with your competency, you also make the task of analysis more manageable. The fewer matters that are competing for your attention, the less the danger of becoming distracted or confused. Even on those rare occasions when you are able to address more than a single substitute, careful identification of all them will make your inquiry more orderly and purposefully. Finally, limiting your treatment will lessen the chance of your oversimplifying complex matters.